The Varn were not just conquerors, they were destroyers. For over 200 years, their dark fleets had spread across the stars like a plague. They were not interested in alliances, diplomacy, or trade. They only wanted control. Planet by planet, system by system. They erased cultures, burned cities, and replaced life with silence. The Varn were tall, insect-like creatures. Their bodies were half armor, half machine. Their ships were living things, made from metal and flesh. They did not speak. They did not warn. They simply appeared in the sky and began to kill. Many tried to fight back. Some resisted for weeks. Others fell within hours. In time, even proud galactic powers surrendered before the Varn could even arrive. Everyone believed that resistance was useless. Everyone except one forgotten world. Far from the core of the galaxy, near the edge of known space, floated a small planet called Helion Reach. It had once been a human colony. Its people lived in peace, farming, mining, and studying the stars. The central government of Earth had not paid much attention to Helion Reach in decades. It was too far away, and it caused no trouble. Then the message came. A small alien freighter limped into Helion Reach's orbit. Its hull was torn open, its crew barely alive. Before it died, the captain sent a single message. Varn. Coming. 10 systems lost, no survivors, run. The message shook the people of Helion Reach. Many wanted to evacuate, but where would they go? Who would take them in? And then, someone remembered what still floated in their sky. In a high orbit above the planet was a warship. Old, dark, sleeping. It was called the UHS Vigilant. It had been built during humanity's greatest war, a time when Earth fought itself in brutal global battles. Back then, the Vigilant was the pride of the Terran fleet, a symbol of power, unity, and strength. But after the war ended, the ship had been retired. It was too dangerous to destroy and too expensive to maintain. So they parked it above Helion Reach and forgot about it. But one person had not forgotten. Captain Adrienne Voss stood on the bridge of Helion Reach's defense station, eyes locked on the dying freighter. Her face was scarred from old battles. Her hair, once dark, was now silver. But her posture was still strong. She had once commanded fleets. She had seen war. And she knew what the Varn could do. I'm bringing her back online, she said, her voice calm but sharp. The governor of Helion Reach shook his head. The Vigilant is a relic, and Earth has warned us not to interfere. If we fight back, we'll only make things worse. Voss didn't blink. If we don't fight, there won't be anyone left to complain. She walked out before he could argue again. Reactivating the Vigilant was no small task. The ship was massive, longer than a city, armed with weapons no modern navy dared to build anymore. Its systems were old, but powerful. Inside its belly were fusion torpedoes, railgun cannons, stealth drones, and a secret AI core that had been locked for 50 years. Voss called in favors. She brought in retired engineers, old soldiers, young pilots, and brave volunteers. They came in silence, understanding the risk. They didn't do it for medals. They did it because this was their home. As systems powered on, the Vigilant hummed like a waking beast. Blue lights ran down her spine. Weapons came online. Shields crackled. The ship had waited too long. She was hungry for battle. The AI core spoke for the first time in decades. System online. Threat detected. Orders, Captain Voss. She smiled. Prepare to remind the galaxy what humans are capable of. Meanwhile, deep in space, a Varn scout ship arrived in the outer ring of the Helion Reach system. It sent no signal. It simply watched. Then it turned and vanished into hyperspace. Week later, Helion Reach's long-range sensors detected movement. A fleet of Varn ships, 20 destroyers, 2 hive cruisers, 1 command ship. They were coming. The planet began evacuation drills. People panicked. Earth sent a message to stand down and await diplomatic contact. But Voss didn't listen. She stood on the bridge of the Vigilant as the stars shifted on the screen. Her crew stood ready at their stations, nervous but steady. Voss pointed at the incoming fleet. Let them come. Let the galaxy watch. They think humans are weak, but they've forgotten what we do when we have nothing left to lose. The first battle of Helion Reach was about to begin, and the galaxy would never forget what it witnessed. The stars above Helion Reach were calm, but something deadly was coming. The Varn fleet was only days away. Their ships moved in perfect formation, fast, silent, deadly. To the galaxy, it was just another step in their conquest, another system to destroy. But this time, the Varn would face something they had never seen before. They would face the Vigilant. Inside the warship, activity buzzed like a hive. The crew, young cadets, old veterans, miners, farmers, and scientists, worked together like gears in a machine. Many had never seen battle, but under the sharp command of Captain Adrian Voss, they learned fast. Voss walked through the ship like a storm in uniform. Every order she gave was clear and firm. She had fought real wars. She knew fear, but she didn't let it show. Her calm strength gave others courage. "Power status?" she asked. "Main reactor is hot," said Chief Engineer Leon. "Old, but stable. She's holding steady at 94%. "Good," Voss nodded. "Weapons? Railguns are loaded. Plasma batteries are charging. Drones are on standby. AI targeting system is live and learning fast. Defense systems, shields, are only 70%, but armor plating is strong. We've reinforced key sections with mining alloy from Helion Reach." Voss smirked. "Sometimes dirt saves lives." The ship was old, but like a lion with gray in its mane, it still had claws. In the war room, a 3D map showed the incoming Varn fleet. 20 fast attack destroyers, 2 Hive-class cruisers, and 1 main command vessel. The Varn were predictable. They always sent scouts first, then a wave to break defenses. If the target resisted, they brought more. Helion Reach had resisted. Now the hammer was coming, but Voss had a plan. She tapped on the hologram. "The Varn expect us to stay near the planet, but we'll hit them before they reach it. We fight in the asteroid belt here." She pointed to a broken ring of rocks and debris that circled the outer edge of the system. Lieutenant Raj, one of her young officers, frowned. "That belt's unstable, a lot of blind spots." "Exactly," Voss said. "Blind spots for them. We know this system. They don't. We'll turn the rocks into weapons, set drone traps, hide our real position." The crew nodded. It was risky, but clever. Just like humans had always been when outmatched. The Varn fleet entered the system. They saw a quiet planet and no sign of resistance. They advanced. But then their front destroyers began to vanish, one by one. No explosions, no calls for help, just silence. Inside the belt, the Vigilant moved like a shark in deep water. Her stealth systems weren't perfect, but they didn't need to be. The ship stayed just ahead of the enemy, hiding in the shadows. Captain Voss gave the signal. "Let's give them something to remember." In an instant, space lit up. Rocks exploded as hidden railguns fired. Metal debris tore through Varn destroyers. Hunter drones launched from asteroids, cutting through hulls and engines. The Vigilant came from behind, firing a full plasma burst into the nearest cruiser. The alien ship screamed, literally. Its living parts burned and melted. Varn ships turned, confused. Their perfect formation broke. They had never seen tactics like this. They didn't know how to adapt. The Vigilant didn't wait. She launched torpedoes, each carrying small AI brains that hunted heat and sound. The second cruiser tried to escape, but it didn't get far. Boom! The blast was seen from Helion Reach. In space, the Varn command ship began to fire blindly. It sent signals to call reinforcements, but Captain Voss was ready. EMP net, now. A wall of silent mines floated from the belt. They activated and released a wave of energy that disabled communications and sensors. The Varn command ship was now blind, deaf, and alone. That's when the Vigilant came face to face with it. Voss stood on the bridge, looking at the giant enemy, ship on the screen. "Fire main cannon," she said. The railgun charged. The barrel glowed. Then, like a thunderclap in the vacuum of space, the shot fired. The shell, made of dense metal and moving faster than sound, hit the Varn ship in its center. The ship cracked, then broke, then exploded. The battle was over. Back on Helion Reach, people cheered, families hugged, children cried. They had won. They had survived. In orbit, the Vigilant drifted quietly. Smoke curled from its engines. The hull had taken damage, but nothing serious. The crew was tired, but proud. Inside, Voss sat alone in her quarters, sipping coffee from a dented metal mug. A message blinked on her screen, from Earth Command. "You were told to stand down. Explain your actions." She smiled and typed back. "I followed orders, just not yours." She closed the screen. Elsewhere in the galaxy, word spread. The Varn had lost a battle. For the first time in decades, they had been defeated. By humans, alien leaders who had once feared the Varn began to talk in secret. Maybe, just maybe, the Varn could be stopped. And always, the same name came up in whispers. Vigilant, a ship once forgotten, now feared. The Varn Dominion did not take defeat kindly. When news reached them that one of their fleets had been destroyed by a single human warship, they were furious. The Varn did not speak, but their actions screamed louder than words. They gathered, a larger force, 10 times stronger, faster, deadlier. This time there would be no mistakes. They named the mission Purge Helion. Their goal was simple: erase the human system from the stars. Far above Helion Reach, the warship Vigilant was being repaired and refitted. Inside, the crew worked day and night. Welding sparks lit up dark corridors. Heavy parts were moved by machines and human hands alike. The ship had won its first battle, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. In the control room, Captain Naim Adrian Voss stared at a screen. A red signal blinked in the corner. Enemy movement detected. Bigger than before. Much bigger. Lieutenant Raj stood beside her, reading data. "It's a full strike armada. Over 200 ships. 3 Hive-class cruisers. 1 Overlord-class carrier. Estimated time?" Voss asked. 5 days. She didn't flinch. "Good. That gives us 5 days to make them regret coming." On the second day, a transmission reached the Vigilant. It wasn't human. It came from a distant system. The voice was calm, old, and not like anything the crew had heard before. "To the warship Vigilant, we are the Silent Accord. We watched your battle. You stood when others ran. We offer knowledge and alliance." The crew looked at each other, unsure. Who were these aliens? Captain Voss replied, "If you have something useful, speak plainly. We're short on time." A map appeared on the screen. It showed hidden Varn supply lines, energy refueling stations, and weak points in their communication web. It was a gift, a weapon in the form of information. The voice continued, "The Varn have ruled through fear, but fear weakens when someone fights back. We cannot fight, but we can help those who do." Voss smiled. "Then you found the right ship." The next 3 days were chaos. Using the data from the Silent Accord, the Vigilant launched small strike teams into space. Fast, quiet, and precise. These missions targeted Varn relays and supply routes, cutting off fuel and blocking reinforcements. Each mission was dangerous, but the human crews were brave and clever. In one mission, a pilot named Keela Tran flew a stealth drone into a Varn fuel station and triggered a chain reaction. The explosion could be seen across 3 sectors. In another, a team of engineers hijacked a Varn beacon and fed false data to their fleet, throwing off their navigation by hours. Every second earned was a second to prepare. Day 5 arrived. The sky over Helion Reach turned red with warning signals. The Varn were here. 200 ships appeared in orbit. They moved without sound, surrounding the planet like a dark storm. From the ground, it looked like the stars were being eaten. On the bridge of the Vigilant, lights flashed and alarms rang. "All stations ready," reported Raj. Voss nodded, calm as ever. Let's show them what humans do when they're outnumbered. The battle began with a shockwave. The Varn fired first. Energy beams sliced through space. One hit the Vigilant's outer shield, shaking the whole ship, but it held. Then the Vigilant answered. Its main cannon fired a piercing shot, cutting through a Varn destroyer like paper. At the same time, drone swarms launched in every direction, each one programmed to attack weak points in the enemy formation. The space around Helion Reach turned into a battlefield of fire, metal, and light. Despite the chaos, the humans fought with purpose. Every move was planned, every shot counted. Voss had trained her crew well. In one key moment, the Vigilant flew straight into the center of the Varn formation, an act that most would call madness. But it was a trap. As the Varn closed in, mines, hidden inside the ship's own hull, launched outward and detonated in a perfect circle. 6 Varn ships were destroyed instantly. 10 more were damaged. The Vigilant came out of the smoke like a ghost, burned, but still alive. The Varn, now angry and confused, called in their Overlord-class carrier. It was huge, twice the size of the Vigilant, covered in armor and armed. With dozens of energy turrets, it fired everything it had at the human warship. Voss watched the red lights flood her screen. "Divert power to the forward shield," she ordered. "And prepare the core cannon." The engineer's voice came through, panicked. "Captain, the core cannon hasn't been tested in years. It could tear the ship apart." She didn't hesitate. "We're using it, with the ship shaking under." "Fire." The crew loaded the core cannon, a weapon so powerful it had only been fired once during Earth's Civil War. It used a small artificial black hole, compressed into a warhead. The ship turned. The cannon charged. Fire. The shot flew across space like a burning comet. It hit the Overlord carrier in the center. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then the carrier folded in on itself and vanished, swallowed by its own gravity. The remaining Varn ships froze. Some tried to escape. Others lost coordination and crashed into each other. The humans had done the impossible again. They had won. After the battle, silence filled space. The Vigilant, smoking and battered, returned to orbit. Helion Reach stood proud and safe below. Captain Voss stood on the observation deck watching stars reappear in the sky. "They'll come back," Raj said beside her. "Yes," Voss replied, "but so will we." In the distance, more messages began to arrive. From alien worlds, from secret allies, from old enemies now seeking hope. All saying the same thing. "You fought the Varn and survived. Teach us how." The galaxy was changing, and at the center of that change was one old human warship. The galaxy was changing. For over 200 years, the Varn Dominion had ruled through fear. No one dared stand against them. No one resisted. Until now, the human warship Vigilant, under Captain Adrian Voss, had defeated 2 Varn fleets. What was once seen as impossible was now real. The stories spread quickly across the stars, spoken in whispers, shared in hidden messages, and passed on from one system to another. They fought the Varn and won. Some called it luck, others called it madness, but most of all, people called it hope, and the Varn, they called it a problem that needed to be erased. Inside the dark throne world of the Varn, strange biocomputers screamed in pulses of light. The Dominion overminds gathered. They watched recordings of the battles. They studied the Vigilant. The humans were clever, unpredictable, dangerous. The Varn decided on a new strategy. Not a fleet, not brute force. This time they would use shadows. They activated an elite hunter group, the Silent Brood. These were not ordinary ships. They were stealth killers, designed for sabotage, assassination, and terror. Their mission: find the Vigilant, follow it, break it from within, back near Helion. Reach. The Vigilant's crew continued to prepare. The warship had survived 2 battles, but it had taken damage. Some systems were still offline. Weapons needed repair. Shields flickered now and then, but morale was strong. More volunteers had joined from nearby human colonies. Even a few brave aliens freed from Varn control asked to fight under Voss's command. Among them was Nera Valen, a tall, four-armed alien engineer from a ruined planet called Vareth. She had once served the Varn as a slave technician. Now she was free and ready to make them pay. "They used us like machines," she told Voss. "Let me return the favor." Voss accepted her without hesitation. "We need everyone who remembers what freedom means." A message came from the Silent Accord, the secret group that had helped the Vigilant earlier. This time, it was a warning. The Varn are moving again, but not with fleets. They send ghosts. Be careful. Captain Voss narrowed her eyes. "Let them come. We'll show them what our shadows look like." She gave a new order. The Vigilant would leave Helion Reach. Staying too long would only risk the planet. They would go on the offensive. Using maps from the Silent Accord and intel from alien refugees, Voss planned a hit-and-run campaign. Small, smart attacks on Varn fuel depots, slave camps, and data cores. Each strike would cost the Varn something valuable and spread more fear among their ranks. "We don't need to win big battles," she told her officers. "We just need to make them bleed." The Vigilant slipped into deep space, silent and deadly. They struck fast and vanished just as quickly. One mission destroyed a Varn mind node that controlled an entire slave sector. Another disabled a key relay hub, causing chaos across multiple Varn fleets. Each time, the Vigilant left behind a simple message, broadcast in hundreds of alien languages: "You are not alone. Resistance is alive." The galaxy listened. Rebellion sparked in places that had been quiet for years. On the desert moon of Cursa, farmers attacked their Varn overlords. On a mining station in orbit of Zarnok, enslaved workers turned their tools into weapons, and everywhere they said the same name: Vigilant. But not all shadows were human. One night inside the Vigilant, alarms went off. "Unauthorized data access," shouted the comms officer. "Deck 12, Engineering Corps." Voss raced to the location with a security team. What they found shocked them. One of their own, an alien technician, was dead, his chest torn open. Nearby, a panel had been cut apart, with strange tools. A virus had been uploaded into the ship's mainframe, but stopped halfway. Nera Valen examined the damage. Her face grew pale. This is Varn tech. Silent brood. I've seen it before. A hunter had made it on board. Or, maybe, was still on board. From that moment, the Vigilant was on high alert. Lights were dimmed. Doors were sealed. Guards were posted. Voss made a decision. We hunt the hunter. For the next few days, the crew searched the ship from top to bottom. Tension grew. People whispered. Sleep was rare. Then, one night, it struck again. A drone bay exploded. 2 crew members died. Another system was corrupted. But this time they got a trace. The intruder was fast, moving through narrow service tunnels, avoiding detection. But Nera Valen had an idea. "The Varn use smell and heat," she explained. "We'll trap it with a cold chamber and a false scent." It worked. Inside the weapons bay, the creature was caught. It was tall and thin, covered in black armor. It had long blades on its arms and no visible face. It hissed in a way that made the skin crawl. Voss looked it in the eye and said one word: "Goodbye." Then she gave the order. They ejected the entire chamber into space, and the creature froze in the vacuum, still trying to reach the ship. After that, the crew tightened their defenses. No one trusted the shadows, but they trusted each other, and they trusted Captain Voss. She stood in front of the crew and spoke clearly. "They want to scare us. They think we'll stop. But we've only just begun. We are not prey. We are the storm." The Vigilant moved again, toward the heart of the Dominion, toward the Varn central systems. The galaxy watched, and the Varn, once feared by all, began to whisper a new fear. "The humans are hunting us." The Varn Dominion was no longer a silent ruler in the shadows. For centuries, they had crushed worlds and ended empires without resistance. But now, something new had taken root in the galaxy. Something dangerous. Something loud. The Vigilant. This, one human warship had turned their control into chaos. It struck like lightning, quick, sharp, and deadly. Wherever it went, it left hope behind. And with every victory, more alien worlds rose up. Protests became riots. Riots became revolts. The galaxy was waking up, and the Varn were growing afraid. The Vigilant now led a small fleet of rebels, freed slaves, old warships, converted mining freighters, and stolen Varn vessels. They were not well organized. They were not strong. But they followed Captain Adrian Voss, and that made all the difference. In the ship's command center, Voss stood in front of a holographic star map. Beside her were leaders from other species, grizzled warriors, young freedom fighters, and even a former Varn scientist who had defected. Their goal: destroy the Varn's main jump gate, a massive portal that connected their empire to the rest of the galaxy. It was the center of their power, their supply routes, and their fleet movements. Without it, they would be trapped, cut off, alone. Once we take the gate, Voss said, we cut their empire in half. No reinforcements, no retreat. The Dominion falls. From within, silence filled the room. Then came nods. Quiet, steady agreement. The plan was dangerous, but it was time. Time to strike the heart. The Varn Gate Station was huge, bigger than any ship. Floating in deep space, it glowed with blue energy and humming machines. Around it, dozens of Varn warships stood guard. It was a fortress. But Voss had a plan. She knew brute force wouldn't work, so she used the one weapon the Varn still didn't understand: human unpredictability. The Vigilant fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, made up of fast rebel ships, created a fake attack on a nearby system. The Varn responded, sending half their fleet to defend. The second group, including smaller stealth ships, disabled sensor relays across nearby sectors. The Varn became blind. And the third group, Voss and the Vigilant, came in from the shadows. The ship drifted in quietly, covered by a false asteroid field made of old ship parts and shield debris. They got within firing range without being seen. Then, like a hammer from the dark, they struck. The Vigilant opened fire with everything it had: railguns, plasma bolts, ion blasts. Each shot aimed at the gate's control spires. Explosions shook the structure. One tower fell. Then another. The gate flickered. Varn ships turned and rushed to defend, but it was too late. The rebel fleet followed the Vigilant into the fight. From every side they attacked. Alien pilots shouted in different languages, all fighting for the same goal: freedom. Inside the Vigilant, alarms rang. Enemy fire hit the hull. One engine started to smoke. But the ship kept going. Captain Voss stood firm on the bridge. Target the gate core. We finish this now. As the ship approached the center of the gate, a shadow fell across them. The Varni, overmined dreadnought had arrived, the largest Varn ship ever built. It was alive, breathing. Its metal skin pulsed like a heart. It moved with purpose and fury. It blocked the path to the gate core. Voss stared at it on the screen. So, she said softly, they finally send their god. The crew waited for her order. She took a breath, then said, let's show it, what humans believe in. The battle between the Vigilant and the dreadnought shook the stars. Missiles flew, shields cracked, lasers lit the black sky. The Vigilant dodged, fired, dove, and struck again and again. But the dreadnought was too strong. Its armor healed. Its weapons were endless. It hit the Vigilant with a beam that broke through Deck 6, injuring dozens. Still, the crew fought on. They had something stronger than machines. They had purpose. In a desperate move, Voss ordered a risky plan. They would crash the Vigilant into the gate core and detonate the ship's graviton core from inside. But Captain, Raj shouted, we'll be caught in the blast. Voss looked at him. We don't need to survive, she said. We just need to win. But before the order was confirmed, Nera Valen, the alien engineer, stepped forward. No. Let me do it. You've led long enough. Now let me carry the fire. Voss looked at her. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Then Voss nodded. Nera took a shuttle carrying the armed core inside. The dreadnought tried to stop her, but the Vigilant gave cover, taking fire, drawing attention, keeping the beast distracted. The shuttle reached the gate core. Nera activated the core. She spoke her last words into the comm. Tell them, we made the stars free again. Then the light swallowed everything. A flash, a shockwave. Silence. When the light faded, the gate was gone. The dreadnought had vanished, and the Vigilant floated quietly in space. Damaged, but alive. The rebel fleet cheered. The Varn fleet retreated, in chaos. For the first time in history, the unbreakable gate was destroyed. The Varn Empire, once united and mighty, was now split and weak. The galaxy held its breath. Change had come, and it had come with fire. In the days that followed, messages poured in. Worlds rose up. Colonies declared freedom. Alien fleets switched sides. The Varn were no longer feared. They were hunted, and at the center of this storm was the ship that had cast the first shadow, the Vigilant. Captain Voss stood on the bridge, her hands behind her back. Her ship was broken in places, but her people were stronger than ever. It's not over, Raj said. Voss smiled. No. But the end has finally begun. The stars stretched out before them, and the last gate had burned. The galaxy was no longer silent. Once ruled by fear, it now echoed with a different sound. Freedom. The destruction of the Varn's main gate shook the stars. Their mighty empire, built on control and terror, began to fall apart. Without the gate, they couldn't move ships fast. Without supply lines, they couldn't feed their armies. And without fear, they had no power. One by one, worlds rose up. One by one, chains broke. And everywhere, in every corner of space, people spoke the same name. The Vigilant. In the quiet orbit of a newly freed world, the warship floated like a ghost. The Vigilant was no longer shiny or new. Its hull was cracked, some lights flickered. Parts of it had been patched with alien steel and repainted by hand. But it was still strong, still proud. Inside, the crew worked with quiet focus. Repairs were slow, but steady. There was no rush. For the first time in months, they weren't fighting a battle. They were watching the galaxy heal. Captain Adrian Voss stood in the observation deck. The stars shone like scattered diamonds in the black sky. She sipped a hot drink, thinking about everything that had happened. The people they lost, the battles they won, the future that now had a chance. Beside her stood Lieutenant Raj, holding a data tablet. Another dozen systems declared independence, he said with a small smile. The Varn can't even send messages between sectors anymore. Good, Voss replied. Let them sit in their darkness for a while. Raj hesitated. You know, people are saying your name like a legend now. Some think you're not even human. Voss chuckled softly. I'm very human, just tired. He looked at her seriously. They want you to lead, Captain. The Silent Accord, the rebels, even Earth Command. They're asking for a council of peace. And they want you to sit at the center of it. Voss turned away from the stars and looked at him. I didn't do this to become a queen. I did this because no one else would. Let others lead now. Let the free people decide what comes next. Raj nodded slowly. And us? She smiled. We disappear for a while. In the weeks that followed, the Vigilant made one last journey. Not to fight, not to burn gates, but to return home. The ship arrived above Helion Reach, the same place where the first Varn fleet had tried to destroy humanity. The people on the surface looked up and cheered. Children pointed at the sky. Families waved flags and painted the ship's name on walls. Vigilant, a ship that had once been forgotten, now remembered forever. The crew disembarked. Some went home, others joined new missions, helping. Free planets, rebuilding cities, training young soldiers. But Captain Voss stayed on board. She didn't want medals, or statues, or speeches. She just wanted peace. In the ship's main terminal, she sent one final message to the galaxy. This ship was not built to conquer. It was built to protect, and it did. We hope the galaxy now chooses peace over power. But if darkness ever returns, we will not be far. Then she shut down the terminal. The Vigilant powered down. Its lights dimmed, and it entered silent orbit over Helion Reach, watching the stars like an old guardian. Years passed. The galaxy healed. New governments were formed. Old enemies became allies. Trade returned. Science grew. And for once, the stars felt safe. But the story of the Vigilant did not fade. In every school across every species, children learned about the ship that stood alone against the Varn. They drew pictures of it, sang songs about it, told bedtime stories of how it moved like lightning, how it fired with the force of a planet, and how one woman stood on its bridge and stared down an empire. One small alien girl, living on a free world once ruled by the Varn, asked her grandfather, "Did the humans really do all that?" The old man smiled and nodded. Yes, they did. When everyone else gave up, they did not. When the galaxy was full of fear, one human warship cast a shadow over that fear, and the Varn ran from it. The girl looked up at the stars, eyes wide. Will they come back? Maybe, the old man said. But if they do, the Vigilant is still up there, waiting. The girl whispered, "Humanity." Wow. He nodded again. Humanity, yes. But more than that, hope. Real hope. And far above, silent and still, the Vigilant remained, not as a weapon, not as a ghost, but as a symbol, a warning to tyrants, a promise to the weak, a shadow cast across the stars, forever.